so if he was God on earth, how can God pray to God?
May peace be with you if you were watching this video. So hopefully you were able to check out part 1. Now I'm on part 2 to really describe Jesus in his totality and his entire mission for coming to earth. Now, again, in part 1, you heard me say it's not found anywhere in scripture where Jesus says that he is God. It says that he and the Father are one. Those are the words that came out of his mouth. Now, if Jesus said it and he wasn't telling the truth, then you might as well say he was lying. But it came out of his mouth that he and the Father are one, which is not the same as saying that he is God. It's not the same. So again, go look at part 1 if you hadn't had a chance to listen to that whole breakdown. Now, when we understand kingdoms, if you read your Holy Quran and you read your Holy Bible, you will see the word kingdom all throughout the scriptures. You'll see it. But we don't understand what a kingdom is. We don't understand kingdom systems. We don't understand kingdom hierarchies. We don't understand a theocracy. We just don't get it because we don't live in that in our modern day and modern times. And so when you understand the kingdom dynamic, you understand that a king is the head of his kingdom, right? And again, I talked about co-regency in the last part 1 video. Now, when you understand the Holy Scriptures and you understand the Holy Quran and the Bible and how it talks about Adam and Eve and not following Satan and deception and all of that stuff, you understand that what Adam and Eve had at first, before they were deceived and before they fell for the bait of Satan, is they had royalty. They had the kingdom of God, right? They had it. They had the Spirit of God with them. And it was the moment that they disobeyed God that their spirit was taken from them. Now, the entire corporate purpose and mission for Jesus is so multifaceted, but for this video purpose, I want to say that the entire mission of Jesus in its part was to reestablish that royalty back to us. Okay, what does that royalty look like? That royalty looks like dominion. You'll see dominion in the Holy Quran and in the Holy Bible as well. That royalty looks like authority. It looks like power, right? And that right there teaches.
All right. Welcome to another Full Armor News episode. How you doing, my boy? I'm Sev Sojourner. I'm going to be taking you on a journey. We're going to be talking about this concept of kingdom building. We're also going to be talking about the concept of Jesus and who he was and what he represented. Some of the things that I really want to dive into based off of what this gentleman, his name is Darius Neelam, based off of what he's discussing, some of the things that I really want to dive into is who is Yahshuah, because I'm going to go ahead and call him by his actual name in Hebrew. Who was Yahshuah, HaMashiach, which is the Messiah, and was he God? Now, this is an important discussion for us to have because this is actually one of the most important things that have been debated within the Hebrew community. When there's a Hebrew discussion with those who believe in the New Testament, those who don't, that is ultimately the talking point that ends up really getting challenged, is if he existed, and if he existed, in what capacity. I find it interesting just because, like, I've been reading scriptures, and the more that I read, within the Old Testament, I'm talking about the Torah, when I read in the book of Genesis, understanding that, and I'm going to go through these scriptures actually, understand that there was mankind and man. Yahshua comes through a bloodline. And when we understand Adam and Eve are a bloodline and mankind are a whole nother form of human, we also start to understand more so what Yahshua actually represents. Now, the other thing that we also have to acknowledge too is when we start getting into the scriptures, we start talking about Ezekiel, we start talking about Jeremiah, we start talking about Samuel. All of them were sons of men. And the thing about them being sons of men, that means that they were the prophet, they were the speaker, they were the voice of the Most High to man. And that's an important thing for us to understand. And the reason why it's an important thing for us to understand, because the more that we understand that the Most High appointed prophets to be the voice of men, sons of men for the Most High, the more that we start understanding who HaMashiach is. Understanding the term itself, HaMashiach, right? Mashiach is the anointing oil that is put on to those who are kings, those who are prophets, those who were called to be a representation of the Most High in his kingdom, right? So, yeah, I'm going to dive into this a little bit, and then within it, just build out a discussion around it. If you have another perspective, I would love to hear it. This is some of the research and things that I've broken down from what I've found. So, and this is a hard conversation for those who are indoctrinated and can't challenge that indoctrination and do some research themselves. First thing that I want to do is I want to go into Genesis. We're going to go into Genesis 1, first Genesis, and we're going to read a few. We're going to read from 26 through 27. So let me go ahead and share that screen for y'all real quick. But yeah, this is a conversation that needs to be had, just because we need to have a complete understanding on our roles within the body of the Most High in the kingdom. We have to understand our roles. And the reason why we have to understand our roles is because the more that we understand our roles, we understand our purpose and why we're here. And I feel that a lot of the confusion and the religious mindset that comes in from us really goes into not understanding the scriptures, or being scared to question, or being able to research and see what we really see outside of us just memorizing certain scriptures in order to be combative with one another. So we're going to go into Genesis. I'm going to start us at 26. Actually, I'm going to go ahead. There's a few. I'm going to start us at 25. And Elohim, I'm going to be saying God is Elohim because I'm going to utilize the correct Hebrew terms that were taken out. Just if you wonder why I'm saying Elohim instead of God, right? And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle of after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, there's some key things. Now, before we even get into let us make man in our image, let's go into this. Now, when we look at the scriptures at 25, it says, and Yahweh, or and Elohim made the beast of the man after their kind, after his kind, after its kind. The reason why that's an important thing, because now we're not talking about the advanced man. The reason why this man is named amongst the animals, because this man has animal features, right? We start to talk about the Neanderthal. This is what the scriptures is actually referring to within mankind, right? And that's an important thing for us to understand, because the order of how man was made explains who we are within the bloodline. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle of the after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. All right. Now, after this, we go to 27. So God created man, and this is where people think this is Adam, but this is not Adam. And I'm going to prove that this isn't Adam right here. But this is why people think that this is Adam. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. Now, we're talking about gods. The thing that we have to understand is the Bible also refers to there also being other gods, other angels, right? Now, we're talking small g, not big G, but there's other beings that have power, even when we start getting into the Anunnaki. Now we're starting to talk about other powerful beings. Now, I know a lot of you don't get outside of the Bible, but the more that you get outside of the Bible and you start reading in, or you start understanding what the Orishas, who the Orishas were, you start understanding who all the gods within Orishas and what they represented, you start to understand that there are powerful beings that were amongst the earth, that were on the earth before even man was on the earth. And that is something that we have to understand, because there's layers to this book. There's layers to these stories, and we don't completely understand them. I think that's something for us to acknowledge. I've discovered some things within this from my own research and having discussions with different people. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. This isn't the Garden of Eden. This is earth. This is overall earth. That's an important thing for us to acknowledge, because once we start getting into who Yahshuah is, this is going to be key. Who are the Gentiles? Who is Yahshuah? What does he represent? Why is there more than one son of man within the scriptures? Why does it refer to Ezekiel as son of man and also Jeremiah as son of man? They're prophets. Why is it that the Mashiach is an anointing oil on the head? That means that David was a Messiah. That means that anyone who was in Solomon was a Messiah. Anyone who was a king, a prophet, Samuel was a Messiah. The Levites, they had anointing oil put onto them. They were Hamashiachs. They were Mashiach. They put Mashiach on their head, which made them messiahs. You know, that becomes a controversial thing, because a lot of us have been indoctrinated to think that Jesus is the only Messiah and Jesus is God. But he doesn't say in the scriptures that he's God. And that's an important thing for us to acknowledge, because then we can understand our roles. And the more that we understand our roles, we can do something with that. We can start living outside of the scopes of the box of the world's construct and live with a kingdom mindset, understanding that we're royalty, right? So let me go into these next scriptures. These are some important scriptures to get into. But the other thing I want you to acknowledge too, well, let's read these scriptures and then I'll go into this other part. I have a tendency to want to get excited a little bit when I start really understanding things, you know? So we're going to go into 2nd Genesis. Let's go ahead and exit. We're going to go to 2nd Genesis, and we're going to start at 7, going through verse 9. All right. Let's see here. See, the thing about it is most people, they want to be spoon-fed faith. They don't want to read. They don't want to do too much work. They want to be spoon-fed their faith. And the reason why they want to be spoon-fed, because it's easier to condition. People get upset with you when you start questioning the condition. That's absurd. That's crazy to me. So let's do this. We're going to go into 2nd Genesis 7 verse 7 through 9. And then Yahweh. And I think this is an important thing as well, because when we get into 2nd Genesis verse 7, 9, it says Yahweh by his name. It says his name. So Lord is the placement of his name, Elohim, right? And the other one, it just says God. And God said, let make man in our image. That means that is a different entity that we're talking about right now. And the thing that we also have to understand is Lord and God was also what they referred to Hashatan, Satan, as. So think about these things as I go into this. And Yahuwah, Elohim, formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Now, that's an important thing. He's made out of dust of the ground and breathed breath into his nostrils. The breath means ruach. The breath is ruach. That's Yah's essence in man. He didn't breathe the essence of him into these other beings. Adam is walking with the ruach, the breath of the Most High, in his nostrils. And the man became a living being. We are the bloodline of Adam. Now, Yahuwah Elohim had planted a garden in the east of Eden, and there he put man he had formed. You see the difference? This is 2nd Genesis, verse 7 through 9. Why is this important? This is important because then we start understanding that Adam has the essence of the Most High's breath in his nostrils, that he was placed in a special place called Eden. Where else is called Eden? Africa. Okay? So let's get this, y'all. I want y'all to get this. And Yahuwah Elohim made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground, trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food. In the middle of the garden were the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So that's where we start out. We get the tree of life, the tree of knowledge. Man is born. This is before Eve is even in the equation at this point, right? But the thing that we have to understand is that man, let's go back to the other scriptures. When we go into 1st Genesis, the thing that we have to understand within that is man was made after his kind, he after him, and she after her. You know what I'm saying? So these are different gods. So God created man in his own image. The image of God created he, him. Male and female created he, them. Not Yahuwah. It doesn't say Yahuwah. It says God. We're talking about a different God, y'all. And I know that's a controversial thing, but the thing about it is the scriptures have been changed and they've been transitioned and they've been confused into code for those who can actually break it down. You get different messages from it, from those who know who know. So let's get it. We're going to go into, all right, the other thing that I want you to acknowledge too. Let's acknowledge some things as we get into this conversation, right? Let's acknowledge some things. Now let's go ahead and pull up these images. Now we are all aware, most of us, a lot of us are aware that these images in Russia, in Europe, are the images of the people of the Bible, right? Why are the people of the Bible hidden? Why do they hide the images of the people of the Bible? And this is not me being racist. This is not a racial thing that I'm doing. Right now, I'm showing you evidence of things that have been covered up. The reason that the images are covered up is because the people in the Bible represent a bloodline. And the more that you understand that they represent a bloodline, a very divine bloodline that didn't just come through David and Solomon, but this bloodline was originated through Adam and Eve and through Shem and through Jacob and through Isaac and Ishmael. Like, this is the thing that we have to understand, is that these images, yeah, they're idols. They're considered idols, but they're also revealing the truth of what the people of the Bible would have looked like, who came from Eden, which is also Alcanian. I'm saying it wrong, but it means the continent of Africa, which is Eden. Now, okay, this is going to get even deeper because America is Africa as well. And South America is Africa as well. This is going to get deep, and the reason why I say that is because we got to keep in mind Pangaea before the world was actually divided. Right? There's different phases of time within history. History is not linear, for one. Time isn't linear, and there are many truths that are happening all at once. So I wanted y'all to see this. I wanted y'all to see this, and the reason why I wanted y'all to see this is because we have to remember, if we're talking about a bloodline, who's of that bloodline? What did that bloodline look like? Why are the images shared or hidden? All right. Those are some of the things that I want you to talk about. Now let's talk about Yahshuah and who he was. So I go through that because I want you to understand and establish the bloodline. And now that we've established the bloodline, it's time to go ahead and establish who Yahshuah is. All right. Let me see here if I can pull this back up. Okay, I'm gonna have to re-pull it up. I thought I had it. And the thing about finding the truth, right, is that being the first one to, and I'm not the first one to reveal this. There's many people who have revealed this, but being individuals to be revealing truth of how the scriptures really are on the New Testament. See, the thing about the New Testament is the New Testament is a code revealing who we are within being the children of Yeshua, the melanated children of Yeshua. The thing about it is Yahshua never refers to himself as God. He refers to his Father. He always refers us to his Father, right? And we're going to go ahead and read through some scriptures so we can validate this. Now, it says that he's the only begotten Son. He says this, right? Let's see here. Let's go ahead and pull these up. Pull them up. All right. Let's go to all right. Let's start this out. Now, I want you to keep everything in mind that we've already discussed. Adam and Eve is a bloodline, and within Adam and Eve being a bloodline, that means through that bloodline there are people who are established, right? There are there are a variety of different messiahs within the word, right? And then the other thing that I want you to also keep in mind when I'm going in this direction is that Yahshua comes from the bloodline of Solomon, of David. This is a continuation of Isaac, of Jacob, right? And we're going all the way back to Adam and Eve, right? So Yahshua said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. And from now on, you know him and have seen him. Philip said to him, Yahshua, show us the Father, and it is sufficient for us. And Yahshua said to him, have I been with you so long, and yet you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. The thing that we have to acknowledge is, all right, let's go back into Adam and Eve. When we're talking about Genesis, right? And we're talking about second Genesis, and we're talking about verse 7. He breathed the breath of his essence into man, who is made out of clay, right? And the thing about it is we're made in the reflection of our fathers. He also tells the Pharisees and the Sadducees that they're made in the reflections of their father, who is Hashatan. So we're talking about the mindset. We're talking about the heart. We're talking about the intent within this. But we're also talking about a bloodline. So when we're talking about, let's go back into it. Yahshua, show us the Father, and it is sufficient for us. And it is sufficient for us. And Yahshua said to him, have I been with you so long, and yet you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. So how can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? See, the thing that we have to understand with what he's saying, he's referring to himself, talking to Philip. But he's also talking with authority because he understands who he is in the Most High. The people that he's talking to, they don't have the same relationship because they haven't developed it. That's why he says before he gets sacrificed to the disciples, you will be able to do what I do, and even more so. He's explaining to them their capabilities within the Most High and who he is in the Most High. He was advanced. He was enlightened. He was connected. He was anointed to the Most High. But Because he was higher consciousness, he's trying to raise everybody else's frequency to where he's at. That's why he's giving these teachings, showing these examples. The words that I speak to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but Yahshuah, who dwells in me, does the work. Greater is he that lives within you than he that is in the world. These are scriptures that we have to understand because they're telling you who you are, what your work is, what your job is to walk as the example of Hamashiach. He's an example who strived for perfection. And within that perfection, we're able to follow through his footsteps to be messiahs. No one has seen Elohim at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, who has declared him. See, the thing about him saying the only begotten Son is he's talking about the sons and the daughters of a bloodline. He's not just talking about himself. He's talking about who he is within his relationship with the Most High, his ascension within self, who we are within that bloodline in these scriptures. They're coded. All things have been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and the one to whom the Son wills to reveal him. The thing that we're seeing in this one, Matthew 11:27, the thing that we have to understand is we are the children. Ye are a chosen generation, a peculiar people, that I have called you out of the darkness into the marvelous light. I'm paraphrasing what that is, but he's letting us know that we're his children. And so was Yahshuah. He was his son. We're a body, we're family. And I'm not even just talking about through Christ. I'm talking about the actual children of Yeshua, who Yahshuah came to awaken. We all can achieve this, regardless of your bloodline, your background. But the thing that we have to understand is all of this requires work, and we're to strive to be like the Son and to be the sons of the Most High. That's our work. There's more scriptures that break it down. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. He's talking about Adam. But we are the bloodline through Adam. We've been diluted, right? When we start talking about mankind and man, and this doesn't have nothing to do, at this point, we're not even talking about Esau and Jacob. We're just talking about there was another bloodline that was already here in existence. Adam and Eve aren't the foundation of all men. Adam and Eve are the bloodline of a very particular bloodline of people who are connected to the Most High, who he breathed into their nostrils the breath of life. He did not do that. The God who created men and women in their kind, this isn't the same God. This is a different God we're talking about. And I know that sounds crazy, but we have to understand that the King James Version of the Bible has been changed, it's been taken out, it's been canon. And when we're translating these scriptures from Hebrew into English, we're losing the essence. In fact, if you understood the book in its truest form, it would point out exactly who the enemy is, and you would know exactly what you're fighting and why. Less of a metaphor, and it would be more literal. This is the thing. The metaphor allows us to actually go through the discovery of who we are as individuals. And the more that we are willing to go through this, the more that we can elevate and get to our next. Most of the things that I'm talking about are going to be controversial to those who have been indoctrinated within religion. This is not a religious perspective. This is an enlightening perspective that is going to help us heal to get to our evolution. All right. All praises to the Most High Yah. I appreciate y'all. I hope you get something out of this, because this is something that is new that I'm building out. And that discussion with that gentleman, I actually like to get him online too and have a discussion with him. I think he has a brilliant perspective, even though I don't really come from a Christian background. I do consider myself a Hebrew, and I'm getting deeper understanding. I'd have discussions with people of all faiths. I'm not scared of that. So all praise to the Most High Yah. Bless up to those who are chosen. Please like and subscribe, share if you find this of worth. I'm going to be doing more of these styles of breakdowns. So all praises to the Most High Yah. Bless up.